In today's video, I have a bit of Game of Thrones Jon Snow news for you. Kit Harington, the actor of Jon Snow, has come forward with a little bit of what the show will be covering. Not spoiling the plot at all, but he goes through some of the things that we could see in the show and how Jon Snow reacted to the end of Season 8. He throws a few shots at David and Dan as well, which I appreciate.
I think if you asked him, he would have felt he got off lightly. At the end of the show, when we find him in that cell, he's preparing to be beheaded. And he wants to be. He's done. The fact he goes to the wall is the greatest gift to him. And also the greatest curse. He's got to go back up to the place with all this history and live out his life thinking about how he killed Danny. And live out his life thinking about Egret dying in his arms. And live out his life thinking about how he hung Ollie. And live out his life thinking about all of this trauma. And that's interesting. So, I think that when we leave him at the end of the show, there's always this feeling of I think we wanted some kind of little smile, things are okay. He's not okay. He's not okay.
But it really goes down quite deeply to Jon's internal conflict, which is that he doesn't know who he is. He's never known who he is. He knows, first he identified with being a bastard, but he kind of wanted to be a Stark. And though by the end of the show, there's this Targaryen thing thrown in as well. And we don't really see what is, where we don't get time to see where that sits with him. But I think that he's never really known, he's been told who he is all through his life. Been told who he could be, who he should be. He's actually quite far away from knowing who and hasn't had time in our show to really center upon who Jon is. He doesn't have time to do that. But I think he's Jon Snow. He's not Jon Stark, and he's not Jon Targaryen. He's Jon Snow.
As you can see, it seems like Jon Snow is going to be filled with a trauma dump version of Jon Snow. A version of Jon Snow probably plagued by flashbacks and other such things. Now, he never explicitly states that it will be plagued with flashbacks, but he goes on the whole route of having to live with the PTSD of killing Danny and hanging little kids, so I believe it will go down that sort of route. He also goes on about how Jon Snow didn't get enough time to explore himself and his actual character during the series, which I agree to a part of. Of course, we got to see what his actual, what he's like, but he did not get to find himself in the show. That arc was still ongoing, and then David and Dan cut it a bit short, which is why I think Kit Harington was taking a little bit of a shot at them. Of course, it could just be him saying the show was cut a little bit short, which is all David and Dan's fault, but as we can see, it's probably going to be a coming-of-name story for Jon. He's going to figure out who he is and how to represent himself, that he's not a Targaryen, he's not a Stark, he is Jon Snow. He is his own person. It's going to be an independency show from what it sounds like from Kit Harington. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.
And let the man be born.
If anyone survives the war to come, we'll have Jon Snow to thank.
You've got the North in
you. All those hard sons of bitches chose him as their leader because they believe in him. Without her, we don't stand a chance.
Did you bend the knee to save the North? Or because you love her?
He's never been a bastard.
We're brothers now! Fight with me!
You're Aegon Targaryen, true heir to the Iron Throne.
Sometimes duty is the death of love.
It's your choice.